Welcome to My Body, My Bump, My Baby, where we help women be empowered, intentional mothers. This podcast is best enjoyed sipping tea or taking a stroll in nature. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be substituted for professional psychological or medical advice, diagnoses, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician, midwife, or other qualified health provider with any questions about your personal situation, health, or medical condition. Welcome to another episode of My Body, My Bump, My Baby. We have B, that is me, and Hannah here today, and we're going to talk to you about second trimester.
Woo! And that is, I'm just now leaving second trimester when we talk about this, going into third. So I've noticed the slowdown.
Moving into third.
Yeah. Second trimester was very great. Like very just energizing, life-giving in many different ways. I'm getting a lot of things done and then now my body is saying, okay, time to rest.
It's fantastic. It's like you've been in this place, at least for most people, right? Been in this place where first trimester, many people don't really feel so good, really either feeling lethargic or having a really hard time with food and a lot of nausea and just really struggling. And so, you come into second trimester and the fog begins to clear. You start to get your energy back. You hopefully can begin to eat without feeling sick again.
Your appetite balances out a little bit different or more than being either ravenous or feeling ugh.
Yeah, it's like it's a nice little break from the yuck that sometimes comes with first trimester, right?
Yeah, and with that too, I think with the energy comes more creativity, more building of things, like I mentioned in the beginning, getting things done. But you also get the pregnancy brain, which seems to start around this time.
So yeah, let's talk to everybody about what pregnancy brain actually is, just in case they haven't heard of it before.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a definition to it, but it's where I think long periods of focusing on something can be difficult. That might be work related, that might be child related, and like another child related, and sitting down with their activities and then being like, okay, I just lost focus, or I forget where I was, even in a conversation.
Right.
Sometimes that can pop up, and people often use this as an excuse, like, oh, pregnancy brain. It's like mom brain.
It is a thing. It absolutely is a thing. Here at Enso, we teach childbirth classes, and part of the thing that we do in these childbirth classes is we try to provide little bits of information in small little snippets, because we know that we can hold a pregnant person's attention for just a short amount of time, and then they kind of just move into pregnancy land, and then they'll come back, and then they'll move back into pregnancy land.
Same with even in yoga classes. Yep. I remember going through teacher training with you and you discussing this as it relates to, okay, we're not going to tell them every single cue we're doing. If they can follow what we're doing, great. It doesn't matter what side they're on.
Right.
It really doesn't matter.
They just don't have, at this point in pregnancy, there's just, the mental focus is not there.
Yeah.
It really does take your entire body to create a human, and it also takes that energy that we use for focus as well. So
yeah. So if you find yourself stumbling over your words or being a little bit less motivated or focused at work, it's normal.
It's normal. It's okay. And, it would be a good idea to find acceptance in it, because it's not going away anytime soon.
I think that's and I think it's a preparation for motherhood too.
Right.
And another piece of this, and I know we had talked about this pre-podcast too, that I have found, and I think I might have been suppressing it in my first pregnancy, but now I have gained the confidence of motherhood too, to say, okay, for people just to get to the point with things, and for me to get to the point with things. So I have like less patience around listening to someone talk in circles, or even myself talking in circles, versus saying, this is what I need. This is how we're going to get it. How are you going to help me make it happen?
Let's get it done.
Yeah, let's just get this done. And maybe it's because, you have a limited time, not just the limited time of, like, I think pregnancy is like the bigger of like a limit of time period that the season's going to end. But I think I've started to recognize that more in just small spaces of, okay, someone's calling me. I would typically answer that phone call, but it's not worth my time right now. I'm just not going to do it. Because I don't have the energy to expend to it, because I need to put energy in another space.
Yeah, I think, there's so many wonderful things about pregnancy, especially for, any time in pregnancy, but for the first time mom in pregnancy, I think that pregnancy is teaching you some of these lessons on how to be a parent. So one is going to be patience. One is going to be giving up control, because there's a lot happening to your body that you really don't have any say over.
Yep.
And then resources. How do I manage my energy output? Like, this is probably for most people, not everybody, but for most healthy people pre-pregnancy, it's not really something you have to think about. How do I manage my energy output so that I can make it to the end of the day? But you start to do this in pregnancy, and it continues on once you have your little one, because you have to be there for them.
And you start thinking about how you're scheduling yourself, how many things you can do in one day, what's going to actually be effective for you to do something in one day. I mean, that's how I am. I'm rushing here today. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm probably going to be exhausted when I get home. But for me, I know that I can max out at one appointment and one bigger child activity per day, basically. And I see that diminishing as I get further into pregnancy.
Right. So I think, you start to, I think that first trimester maybe brings in a lot of low energy, which is probably a very good thing, because you start to learn how to manage life with a lot less. Second trimester, all the energy comes back and you can get things done. But once you start to leave second trimester, you're starting to move back into a place. It's not as bad as first trimester, and it's not as great as second trimester. It's somewhere in the middle.
About it. I was talking to my husband about this last couple nights ago, complaining about my some physical ailment, and he just actually started laughing, and he said, you said this last pregnancy. And I was like, no, I loved pregnancy. I did not have these issues. He's like, remember, last pregnancy in first trimester, you said we're only having one. And then in third trimester, you also said we're only having one. And now we're at two. And this is how people continue to procreate, because you purposefully forget about the challenging pieces because of the reaping of reward that you get. And I was just laughing, because I'm like, I think my entire career then that I've built is a lie.
Well, I mean, it's a thing. And I will say, for those people who were born female, this affects us.
Oh, yeah.
For those people born male, it does not seem to affect them as much.
No.
But for us, it seems to be built in as part of the process so that we do continue to make babies.
And it just goes back to cycles, and men operate on a 24-hour cycle hormonally, like what a circadian rhythm would be for us as women and females. And women are operating on a monthly cycle. And so when you're pregnant, it's a 9-month cycle. It changes. So it's very different cyclically for both of us. But it's an interesting, deep conversation to get into at some point in time.
So at some point in second trimester, your little flat belly or your little bump actually just pops out. It's no longer burrito. For most people, it's no longer a burrito.
Yeah, and sometimes you're in the middle, you all of a sudden just you either feel cute or you feel I'm like, cute or toot, probably. So you're feeling at this point in time. But in the body image piece is challenging sometimes. I think you've mentioned it too. You have the body image piece oftentimes of not looking pregnant. That can be challenging, which we don't talk about very often.
There's this phase in second trimester that we have to go through where it just kind of looks like we put on some weight.
And or at least to you, you feel like you look like that. It might not look like that to the outside world.
Maybe not. But for you, you're like, oh my gosh, and you're feeling it, right? Like your clothes are not quite fitting the way they used to. So you definitely are noticing, but you also are very aware that it doesn't quite look like you are fully pregnant yet. And so there's that little in-between phase that just really can mess with people's minds,
And I've had clients that this is one of the most challenging things for them during pregnancy. And until I went through my second pregnancy, I had a harder time empathizing or understanding. And then this time around, I'm like, okay, I get it. Winter being pregnant is tough with clothes. and so like one of the things though that I've worked on with clients too is around the body image piece is like, what is going to make you feel better? And often, actually every single time, it's like, I want a new wardrobe that accentuates how I look now.
And it's so hard to go down that path. I think that a lot of people toil with it because it's like, do I invest in these clothes for this period of my life because it's such a short period? I would say there's probably two things to put to that. One is if it makes you feel good in your body, I say it's totally worth the investment. That's an investment in yourself. Yes, exactly.
It is self-care.
And two, ideally you've had a conversation with your partner about the size of the family that you guys want to have together. And if this is not only one pregnancy, then just you use them for this short period and then pull them out next time. Or share them with friends.
That's what I ended up doing this time around, is doing a lot of sharing with friends, because I was pregnant in the summer with my first, and this time I've been pregnant in the winter, and I didn't have clothes that worked for that.
And it really is helpful. So at Enso for the yoga class, we have a little community share area at the front of the studio. And the mamas love to bring various items, including clothing. And the other people who are in the class are just like, oh my gosh, this is great. And they never stay. Like the clothes never stay. They're like gone within the week. Somebody will find use for them. And not only do they find use for them, but they're so grateful. They're like, this is fantastic.
Yeah. And there are some beautiful pieces of maternity clothing out there that can just be passed down from friend to friend and passed around.
Yeah. The traveling pants. What is that? What is
Sisterhood of the traveling
Yes,
pants.
we can just create the sisterhood of the traveling pregnancy pants.
There are affordable things, though, that you can get that you're not breaking the bank buying something like from Blanky or these $90, $100 leggings from these places, which are beautiful and great. I think that if I were an attorney, I would be buying some of these things. Right. But they're like ASOS, H&M, they all have very affordable and also packed as well. I love that. Affordable, even like organic options for clothes if that's something that's important to you. And there are some great sales that they run oftentimes too.
There used to be in Colorado Springs, and I'm sure that this is the case in other cities, a restore for pregnancy clothes only.
Oh.
Yeah, it was fantastic. It didn't
I don't think it's here still.
It's not. It didn't last. But, check in
Facebook
the city.
Marketplace, mom groups. Just if this is your first pregnancy, consider joining mom groups on Facebook too. It's a great place to trade things. But I want to talk also, we're talking about clothes, obviously, and we talked about a little bit of weight gain, and you get into that middle phase of maybe not looking completely pregnant, but now you are, but you are, obviously. And then your belly pops, and there's that piece that makes you maybe a little bit more comfortable in your body, but the scale. the scale keeps going up. And for some,
really,
that's challenging.
It's not a good idea to do that to yourself, I don't think.
It's really hard because in the medicalized model, every single time you go to an appointment, you have you step on the scale. I want to say something about the scale. Those scales are not always the same every single time. And it's often like you might be using one scale one time, another scale another time. They're calibrated differently. I have seen this happen to myself, and I have just watched it. And so you can oftentimes decline that too and just tell them what you weigh at an appointment if that's something that's going to make you feel more comfortable. But there are averages and trends that the medical model follows for an expected weight gain for someone who is pregnant starting at week 1 through week 40 or whatever it is. Those vary so significantly by woman that I do not like when people are tracking against them because oftentimes it causes more harm emotionally that I see in my clients than it is help.
Well, those models are also linear.
Yes.
So our body does not always work in a linear way. So what can happen sometimes is, this is actually very common too. So I'm going to throw this out there for the listeners because this might resonate with somebody. If you're a very petite, slender person, prior to pregnancy, when you get pregnant, most often that kind of build will gain a lot of weight first and second trimester.
I did that.
And the percentages, when they start like, okay, based on the average, you're too high, and they start giving you crap about it. What I have seen is those people typically will start to level out around mid-second trimester, and then they'll get back into the trend line where they're supposed to be, or sometimes they'll start to drop below. It's just that their body is saying, in order for us to create this baby, we need a lot right here at the beginning, and then it levels out. And conversely, this happens for my cousins, my poor cousins. They might not be the most slender people at the beginning of their pregnancy. And unfortunately for them, they get very sick. And it actually works out very beautifully because they had that little bit of extra cushion to hold them through while they're very, very sick. I feel like my poor cousins actually are their lowest weight during pregnancy. But it's okay. I mean, it's not comfortable as far as they're being sick, but it's okay for their body, like,
because it's leveling.
There's
it's doing
wisdom
what it's
in the
to
body.
Do. Yeah,
that's what we have to remember. Like, don't get bent around the axle about these averages, these linear lines that
the
you have to be
calories you're
in.
Supposed to be eating. I hate calories. I think that the calories are the most. They're the most wrong thing to count in any type of way.
I mean, it should be a balanced, nutritious diet. If you are eating a balanced, nutritious diet, and now be careful because there's the baby wants
a Big Mac.
Big Mac. Baby wants
Baby does not want a
nerds.
Big Mac.
Baby wants gummy chewies, or I don't know. Like, now, when we're talking about you're going to be okay and the body has wisdom, it's also when we are feeding the body nutritious food that we should be eating, and not the cravings. And we talked about this a little bit, I think, in first trimester.
Are right for you, but take a look at your craving. Are you craving extra bananas because you might need potassium in your body, or are you craving nerds?
Right.
Nerds have zero impact to your body.
And it's okay to give into a craving occasionally, but we can't live on Big Macs. That's not good for our body. It's not good for the baby. So when we're talking about weight gain, we're talking about when you are within,
the rate.
A nutritional balanced diet.
And a lot of what you are gaining, especially in that sense, so you could be eating a very nutritionally balanced diet, and you're still gaining a significant amount of weight in that first and second trimester, like B talked about. But look at where the weight's going as well. Your breasts are expanding. I have seen anywhere. So there's a great. We'll link it in the show notes. There's a great visual of seeing the average weight gain going into a woman. That's not just baby, like the baby growing. It includes your breasts, the size of your breasts expanding. the size, like the amount of blood supply, like your blood triples, and it's going from about 1 pound to 4 pounds in your body in third trimester.
You grow in another organ.
Your placenta, is growing. The baby is, of course, growing in there.
Amniotic fluid.
Yeah, that's a lot. And then other fluids in your body as well. I mean, you can fluctuate also from morning to night. So that's where I don't think it's effective to also weigh yourself at the doctor unless you're going in at the same time every week or whatever for your appointment.
Right.
So for me, like the midwives have always just asked me, do you know what you weigh? And I say, yeah, in the morning. And so I know I'm going to weigh myself in the morning if I want to know that. In the morning, I weigh this.
Which is always the best time to weigh yourself anyway.
But you also want to see the fluctuation throughout the day because at the end of the day, if you fluctuate up, that means you're retaining fluids in your body, which is great for hydration, and you're retaining nutrients. And then maybe the next day you weigh 0.25 or 0.5 pounds more, whatever.
Yeah.
So a little bit there about weight gain. I think that the social image, you oftentimes see these women on social media looking like they literally put a bowling ball in their belly. That's not the norm. It isn't the norm. It's common on social media.
They're just oddly tiny.
Yeah, very tiny. I like to think about it as literally you feed yourself well so you can feed your baby and your body can do what it's supposed to do for your baby while it's growing in you and while the baby is growing out of you.
And here's one thing I want to ask people to be careful with. Pre-pregnancy. When you start to put on weight, we know that we're gaining weight for some reason. Maybe you've been working out and you have more muscle mass. Maybe you've been, it's the holidays and you've had a little extra cookies and pie and you put on a little fat. But when you're pregnant, please get away from this mindset of I'm so fat, I'm getting fat. You're not. You're growing a human. There is a little person in there. This is not
It's the most
fat.
important thing you're doing in your life.
Right.
Yeah. And even pre-pregnancy, I think that there is wisdom in the body that it starts to gain weight before you get pregnant. I've seen that happen many times. And when you're trying to suppress that weight, it's often more challenging to get pregnant.
Interesting.
I've seen it, and it's happened with myself too. Like I coincidentally gained some weight in the 1 to 2 months leading up to then being pregnant.
Oh, isn't that interesting?
It's like my body finally started to absorb or something better. I have no idea. So, it's look at it from a different perspective of your body is doing a function that it's supposed to be doing for your body and your baby.
Along with baby growing, our body is changing pretty rapidly. There's a lot going on. Baby's growing pretty rapidly. One of the common complaints that people in second trimester will experience is round ligament pain. This is just like your baby is growing and it's stretching out your body, and it's kind of going at a pace that's a little bit uncomfortable for the body sometimes, and it creates this discomfort.
Especially with your first pregnancy.
Yes, because your body has never done it before. It hasn't stretched these things out. Did you feel it so much in your second?
I have felt it not
yet
at all.
Okay, good.
Not at all.
That's fantastic.
But I've also done, a lot of body work around it too. So could be that. But I think my body is just normal. Like I've seen myself pop faster.
And that's very common. Second, third, fourth time moms, they will notice that their bump appears significantly earlier than it did with their first. If we think about it, it makes sense because the body knows what it's doing at this point. And
same with like in birth.
Exactly. That's where I was going to head.
Like from growing to also releasing.
Getting the baby out. Some other things that might come up in a second trimester with your physical body is some women will start to notice like some nerve sensations that are very similar to like if your hand falls asleep. It might not be all of the symptoms of your hand falling asleep, but some people will feel that sleepy hand sensation in your hands, your arms, your shoulders.
They even call, there is such thing as pregnancy carpal tunnel, but that goes away then after you birth the baby.
Yeah. That's very interesting, but also very common and typically will start to show up somewhere in second trimester. typically later, but I've had mamas who actually got the nerve pain in first trimester, which like real late first trimester, really early second trimester. Very interesting. Another common complaint, we see this one a lot in yoga, sciatic nerve pain. What I would say, if you wanted to keep it simple, do some prenatal yoga. Honestly, if you do prenatal yoga once a week, it will keep a lot of these like sciatic nerve pain, lower back pain, those type of things at bay.
Mm-hmm. You're stretching your body in the way that
you have to
needs.
move.
And if you go to a PT too, they're going to give you these stretches and you compare them to a yoga flow. And you're like, wait, I do that in a yoga flow.
Well, and what I will say about PT is great.
Oh yeah, I'm not discounting it at all. I'm just saying in that regard, you could be doing a lot, like killing two birds with one stone.
Well, PT is great. Yoga is fun. Right? Like I don't know what all of the other prenatal yoga studios in the United States are doing, but prenatal yoga at Enso is fun. It's community, and it's more focused on community and getting to know each other and celebrating baby. And then a nice, beautiful side effect is you feel good in your body afterwards.
Yeah. And so Enso in Colorado Springs is a great place for that. And then one of my old coworker, not my old coworker, but one of my ex-coworkers' wives, she is opening up something similar to Enso in Richmond, Virginia.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah. I was like, that's amazing. I don't think we have enough of that in the world right now.
We don't. So Colorado Springs is a military town, and so we get a lot of people who come in and they might do pregnancy 1 here with us, and then they get stationed somewhere else, and so the family has to move. And I can't tell you how many times they've reached back out and they're like, oh my gosh, I'm in this new location and they have nothing like Enso, and I'm having my second baby, and it's too bad.
Yeah. But if you're not okay, so going back to yoga, if you are not in that area that has like a community of prenatal yoga, I personally love...
Oh, you found an app.
Yeah, it's called the Down Dog app, and they have a bunch of different types of workouts, but they have a specific one for prenatal yoga for women, and it's Down Dog Prenatal if you look it up. And I think a subscription is around $50 per year. We'll put the link in the show notes as well. But you put your headphones in and you feel like you are in a yoga class because they curate a flow. Listen to a little bit of it the other day. Pick your music, pick your instructor or your teacher, and it's just a great way to you can choose if you want to do 10 minutes or if you want to do 50 minutes or whatever, however many minutes you want to do. If you have heartburn, you put in there so they're not putting your head below your heart. It's just a very great curated practice.
Nice.
And some other things that can be helpful in this trimester too for the physical ailments that you're feeling, even if you're not feeling them, but to keep them at bay and to prepare your body for the work it's going to do in birth and going into third trimester. Massage. It's great.
I want to put a different spin on massage too. Yeah. I think some people think about massage as, I'm going there and they're going to rub me and it feels good. But that's not what I would mean when I would say massage to somebody. What I mean is two things. One is you need to go to somebody who knows how to work with a pregnant body. That's important. Two, it would be great if they had a table set up for a pregnant body. But three, what you're actually going into the massage for during pregnancy is to have them stretch parts of your body that you cannot do anymore because you're pregnant. Mm-hmm. Like that's huge. I don't think people think about it that way, but when they are putting pressure or moving their hands, they should be creating length in muscles that you cannot stretch on your own anymore. That's important. Mm-hmm. And that's worth it. That's more than I just want to go and feel good about something and get a... Yeah, I think people don't want to get pampered too much. Like that's a little
massage is medical in this sense.
In this case, yes. Mm-hmm. This is not pampering. This is actually just getting through it.
Preparation for your body work. Yes, I agree with that. And then chiropractic, this one I can't speak more highly about.
I've heard so many good things about chiropractic during pregnancy. I've never experienced it, so can you add your experience in?
Yeah, absolutely. So chiropractic during pregnancy isn't just moving your body and like moving bones in your body in any type of way, you are working on your nervous system in addition to the structural piece of your body. So when your body is out of structural alignment, your nervous system is out of structural alignment, and you have the vagus nerve running through your entire body. The largest nerve controls like your parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system responses, and regular chiropractic can help keep that balanced for you. And with the big plus side of you have an ailment that's bothering you and they can fix it oftentimes. So for example, for heartburn, there are some things that they can do. Like you have heartburn up in like the heart space of your body, but think about it in the spine space and what's going on. Maybe there's compression in the vertebra that are up there. So it really comes down to finding a good chiropractor that is certified in the Webster technique, which is for pregnancy specifically, to make sure that they are adjusting your body in the correct manner, working on your pelvis the right way, working on the other parts of your body, but then also nervous system trained in that too. So they have all of that. And they can help with positioning of baby by creating the space in your body. Oftentimes, basically make sure you're going to Webster certified chiropractor or someone who's in training for it.
I would say what I have noticed with my clients is those who make it a regular practice, meaning they go about once every 2 weeks or so, seem to stay more comfortable. I don't think it's a great idea to get into a place where your body is really aching and you're like, I've seen poor mamas walk in where they're like, they got this weird limp happening, like they can't even really move anymore, and they're searching. I'm not going to say it's too late, but I'm going to say that when you get to that place, you're in so much discomfort and so much pain. You can't expect one session to fix it. So it's better to stay ahead. It's the same as with yoga as well. Like you can't just go into yoga to fix the problem. Both of these are more about trying to keep your body in a really great place so that you don't have to get into a place where you're like, I need to fix this thing that's really uncomfortable. And then I need to rewind real quick because we did, specifically say with a chiropractor that we're looking for somebody who is trained in Webster technique. For the massage therapist, we're talking about somebody who actually has training and experience in prenatal. And please, 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 the same is true for yoga. Yoga, it seems, because it's not a high impact workout, would be good for any body at any time, and that's just not true. So be sure that you're going to somebody who is actually prenatal yoga certified teacher. Mm-hmm.
In regular yoga teacher training, we learn modifications for pregnancy, but it's a small number of hours module. And the thing is if you are planning to go to a studio, make sure you've had a practice ahead of time. Like for me, I know that I can go to a vinyasa flow because I'm confident in making the modifications for my body.
But you're also a yoga teacher.
Yeah, I know. Exactly. That's what I'm saying is that a typical teacher in a class of 25 people is going to say, okay, don't go on your back. Obviously, don't go on your belly.
And then from there, they're going to say, listen to your body.
And like, don't twist, but listen to your body. Yeah.
And so in a pregnant woman, that doesn't work, though. Listen to your body doesn't work.
It's tough, especially because your body oftentimes fools you with the hormones and what your ability to do is. So having that prenatal piece is important as well. There's a couple other forms of body work. Acupuncture can be, we talked about this in first trimester for nausea, but this can be great for heartburn, any other of the ailments that you're going on in your body. But it also is great, like in traditional Chinese medicine, acupuncture, they are looking at like the week by week development of baby as well. And there are certain points that they can insert and place into your body that can help with that development of what's going on, help with what's going on also in your body and how you're processing nutrients and things as well. I was flabbergasted at my acupuncture appointment because I had started to laugh and like pee myself a little bit. And I'm like, oh man, my pelvic floor, are you kidding me? And to some extent it's normal during like this stage of pregnancy, but she did a point in my head and she didn't tell me what it was for until I asked because it was really tender. And she said, I do that usually through postpartum because it helps pull everything up. So right now we want to keep baby pulled up. And I was like, so even like prolapse type things you can pull up? And she's like, yeah. So I was like super sore even for like the rest of the week. And then I realized I stopped peeing myself.
Acupuncture
and so she just
amazing.
does it regularly. Yeah.
I
was
love
like, geez, I didn't have to go do any like Kegel type of work either
for
that.
Nice.
So that was amazing. But as we talk about Kegels, I don't want to associate pelvic floor PT with just Kegels because that is not what it is. And that is another body worker that we recommend if you have the chance to see them pre-baby. They can be very, very helpful in assessing not only the strength of your pelvic floor, but the ability for it to relax, as well as it's not just your pelvic floor that they're looking at. They're looking at other parts of your body. So they're looking at, okay, how are both of your sides lengthening? Is there space in there for baby to be able to continue to expand and grow? Or is it going to compensate on one side versus the other? How are your hips? How is the width of your pelvis? Like, what are some things? Okay. And then they assess that and they can say, okay, here are some things that you can be doing to be helping with that. And oftentimes it relates back to yogic type of postures, which I found. But they can also help you with that pelvic floor piece. For me, it was just also reassuring to see, okay, because they'll work internally oftentimes. And for me, it was reassuring to just go in pre-baby and just be assessed and say like, okay, there's no scar tissue left from last time. And this is your strength level. Here are a couple of things that you can work on. And this is what you can do from 36 weeks onward to help prepare the perineum. So that can be helpful. And obviously it's helpful all the way into postpartum as well. I just am going to mention a few homeopathic things that you can do we should have mentioned this, in the sciatica problems, but Mag-Phos and something called Roost Tox. If you look those remedies up, that can be helpful for relief of sciatica
nerve pain.
Yeah, of nerve pain going on in your body. The biggest complaint I think I hear during this trimester is heartburn, GERD, reflux. A lot of times it's a structural because your uterus is coming up. It's expanding, pressing into your breasts, maybe even. It is moving your organs back into your body, causing the like a heartburn or a reflux type of issue. Even if you eat really well, it can pop up. And you might notice that things that did not bother you beforehand, you might have something spicy, or you might have a green tea or a coffee, and that just creates a little bit of stirring up in that area because it is no longer able to close off the bile like it was supposed to. So in this space, obviously the chiropractic acupuncture can be helpful, but there are some homeopathic and herbal recommendations that can
What do you use?
Support this. What I have used that I have found that's been the most helpful for me is marshmallow root. It's a demulcent, so it's very, like, think about it like almost like a gelatinous type of thing. So you're almost coating your insides. And then baking soda and apple cider vinegar mixed together with water.
That sounds really bad. Does it taste awful?
No, because they both cut each other.
Do they?
So like the acidity is cut by then, like the baking soda is like, it's interesting.
On the pH scale, are they opposing?
Yes. So they balance each other out.
I see.
So
Interesting.
It's 1 tablespoon of baking soda plus 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar in some water. That can be very helpful.
And just hold your nose if you don't like
but
vinegar.
It makes you feel a lot better. It makes me burpy initially, but then I just I was losing sleep over heartburn this time, and it cleared that piece of it up. I do think, though, that there is the nutritional piece to this, too, where you want to make sure you're getting a lot of fermented foods into your diet. And that can be done in a more calming manner. So like yogurts and kefirs versus eating something super acidic like a sauerkraut, if you can't handle that right now, if it's going to burn a little bit too much going down. But and then probiotics can be helpful too.
And let's just throw something out there about yogurts and kefir. It's really easy to get yourself in a place where you may have purchased something from the store and it's like loaded with sugar. Just keep your eye out for that. You don't really want something that's loaded with sugar.
Yeah. The plain one, and then adding honey again can help coat.
Or just you can blend it up with some fruit or something where you have a little bit more
Bananas
control over the sugar content.
For that, mangoes can be really like soothing. Pineapples as well, like more cooling, and heartburn is seen as like a fire type of activity going on in your body. Homeopathically, nat mur or natrum muriaticum and natrum phosphorica can be helpful, and those can be found at a regular store. Typically, and I can't say like body work, like the chiropractic massage. That's always helpful to me. If I start feeling it, I'm like, okay, something's off structurally too.
Yeah. So keeping in rhythm with those, like make that part of your routine if you can.
Yeah. Like after I started to get that is when I started to add chiropractic twice a week, which was critical for me, and add massage back into my life.
There's a lot of insurance now that covers chiropractic, not so much with massage, but you know what I would say is, you know, if staying regular with massage is financially difficult, oftentimes there is a family member who is super excited and wants to participate in some way, who would be like more than happy to participate in that way and have that be a gift from them.
I think that's great. And we talked about like the first trimester meal train. We create these baby lists of things that we want for baby, but like, mom's just as important. And you're doing this for baby if you really want to like push, like you literally are doing this because you're pregnant with the baby.
Pregnant people, can I just say, like, I don't know. Maybe this is just me. I'll just speak for myself. But I can remember ever since I was like a little girl, there was something about pregnant people that I just like, you want to be near them. You want to be with them and around them. They're like very special, their energy, right? And I think I'm not the only one. I think there are other people that are like really just want to be participating in some way, you know? And so
it's probably why I love who I work with too. That's probably a piece of it. Yeah. I mean, they're more open, they're creative. There's just a spiritual aspect to them.
Yeah.
You see it, the glowing piece.
Yeah.
It pops up. So getting into nutrition for this pregnancy, for this trimester, a lot of it is similar to what we talked about in the first trimester episode. So keeping your stomach is able to have more of the well-balanced meals again. And when I say that, it might be like more of like the spaced out piece, bigger meals, potentially more diversity is added back into your diet here.
Yeah, you should be able to eat a lot of the things that you couldn't in first trimester.
Yes. You've been, like eggs came back for me pretty quickly.
Nice.
But feeling, you're likely, especially in the very beginning of second trimester, feeling very hungry. So still feeling that ravenous feeling. And so more caloric, I say I hate calories, but more caloric intake is required in the form of protein and fat and complex carbohydrates like fruits and veggies. That's what's required for this. And so this doesn't mean, like we said, adding an extra Big Mac. It means you might be adding in an additional protein shake with collagen, so you can get an extra 25 grams of protein and full fat milk to get the fat for what you need for that day. Again, continuing to pair your fats and your proteins with all of your meals to help balance your blood sugar is really important here. This is the trimester around 26 weeks when you are asked to complete a gestational diabetes screening test. And in the medical model, that typically results in drinking 50 grams of a glucose drink. And if you fail that screen, and then getting your blood sugar taken within an hour. And if you fail that screening, you are asked to do 300 grams, 50? It's like I think it's 100 grams over a 3-hour period of time to measure that. There are, so keep your blood sugar balanced, basically, is what this results or like comes down to.
This is like, okay, right? We know this. We already know this. But what happens is life.
Yeah, so
life happens, and you might just be pregnant during Thanksgiving, or you might just be pregnant during Christmas, or you might just be pregnant during Halloween, right? And I think that it's easy to get on this like goodies trajectory, and you just got to remember that's okay, but just do it for a short time.
Keep the balance. Add more fats, add more proteins in when you're going to have those. And just a note on the gestational diabetes screening, you always have the option to do something like the fresh test, or to ask to have to draw your blood sugar for a couple of days and do a meal plan. A lot of time that is not the normal standard, but it is an option that you have to ask to be able to do that. The we'll link the fresh test as well to this, because it's something that you would order and then bring in on your own. It is a clean, chemical-free version of the glucose drink. And yes, women, when you are drinking that glucose drink, you are drinking chemicals. So I'm just going to put that out there. You can take a look at those ingredients. And if you have questions, please feel free to reach out. I'm very adamant and very passionate about that piece, what we put into our bodies, of course. You also, as you are eating, you want to make sure that you're getting the right electrolytes and minerals and water and fluids again. So again, that's 0.67 times your body weight.
I really want to stress what we're talking about here. So also has an ultrasound studio. And often what happens is mamas will come in and they're wanting to get a great picture of their baby, and their amniotic fluid levels are low. They're so low. And they will say, I'm drinking water all the time. The thing is, water is not going to do it. You can't just drink water. So please, 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 please add a low sugar electrolyte
no
to
sugar,
the water.
LMNT.
Sure.
Yeah, that's a great
low
one.
or no sugar, but do add electrolytes.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And you can just get straight minerals if you want to, but I like LMNT or Element is a great sugar-free version, or Relight. And it's not just sugar. It's not using fake sugar. It's just a good way to get it. And then eat as much as you can, because in third trimester, that is going to slow down and come into these like smaller increments. You can still eat,
but you can eat like little snack-size meals. Bunch of snack-size meals.
Yeah.
Right, so load up.
Yeah.
Well, there is this thought that you cannot celebrate this pregnancy until third trimester. That's when typically, at least in the United States, people will start to have their baby shower, and, they start to put together the nursery. But I would say let's celebrate every trimester. Your body is working so hard. You're working so hard all of the time. And there's always space for a little bit of bonding and a little bit of celebration. So in second trimester, I have a couple of thoughts for you. One, you're feeling good now. You're not feeling as sick and nauseous as you were before. And you may have noticed that you're having some interesting cravings, or you're craving food that you would typically not like yourself. This is super common. This is a way for you to begin to get to know your baby a little bit through some of the things that they are sending up the notice for and requesting. That doesn't mean
and they'll actually
Big Macs. I'm talking about like pickles, or some people like, I'm really craving steak and I don't eat steak, right?
Because they want some of the vitamins and minerals in there.
Yeah.
And this goes both ways. So we oftentimes think about, okay, to get baby to move, we eat some, like people say orange juice or something like that, like sugar stuff. But also, if your blood sugar is crashing, you will oftentimes, or lower, you'll oftentimes get movement from your baby as well, which is a reminder, I need to eat.
Yeah,
It's
so let's
interesting.
talk about movement. In second trimester, you should start feeling the baby, and everybody is different. It's going to be somewhere between 15 weeks and
They say
20.
26 is normal.
What?
They say 15 to 26 weeks.
Yeah, 15 to 26. And 26 is rare, but that's just because
It's like
if
where
somebody
your
has
placenta
an
is.
interior placenta.
Yeah.
So, so somewhere in this trimester, you should start feeling the baby. And this is like a really, in my opinion, there's a huge reason to celebrate here. One, that movement signals to us, to our mama mind, baby's okay, which we didn't have that before. We were really relying on people telling us that baby is okay or just hoping that baby's okay, but you can feel it now. So checking in with your baby and feeling them move is that signal that, hey, we're doing okay here. But the movements will start having meaning. And so it's a really nice way to get to know your baby a little bit. So you might notice baby kicking around when they want you to send food. Or you might notice that baby gets super excited every time you have a glass of milk. Or maybe your baby is super excited whenever you have spicy food, right? But this is like a very fun way for you to really start to get to know the personality of your baby a little bit more. I've had people say, like, I remember I had one mama who was like, I don't do spicy. Like, I can't handle it. And all this baby wants is spicy. And I'm always curious, is it a craving because baby's asking for nutrients, or is it a craving because this is who that little one is? And so I will ask when baby comes out and they're a little bit older, do they still want all the spicy? They're like, oh my God, that's all they want to eat. Spicy. So some of it's nutrients, some of it's personality.
It's a really good point. My son eats a lot of fruit. I ate a lot of fruit with him. Same thing. Right now, actually.
Another little fruit baby, but he still likes a lot of fruit.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes it's just that's them. That's who they are, and you're getting to experience
why do you
it
want
through
all the
your
sugar?
cravings.
But it's fruit.
It's fruit.
I know.
It's not
I'm
bad.
completely kidding. But I'm like, why will you eat that and not the vegetables? Because I was like big on veggies pre-pregnancy, but no.
Somewhere around 21 weeks, this is a really fun appointment that most people will have, and this is the anatomy scan. So if you haven't had a chance to see your baby recently, you'll have an opportunity to see your little one. And some people, only get the 8-week scan and then the 21-week scan. So, from 8 weeks to 21 weeks, this little one has changed a ton. And it is so fun to see them in there being their full little baby self. Also in this trimester, you can find out the gender if you're doing an ultrasound. You can find out the gender before this if you're doing a blood test. But if you're doing an ultrasound, you can find out the gender anywhere between 14 weeks and later, which is super fun and another great reason to celebrate because you can plan a gender reveal. You can, do fun things with the family. It's another nice little celebration to participate with the family and friends with, and it's yummy. I love them. Here's another sweet one. If you didn't know this, somewhere around 16 to 18 weeks, your baby starts to hear your body. So they'll start to hear like the soothing rhythm of your heart. And now you're thinking, they probably don't care about that. But you know what? Because I work in the ultrasound studio, I can tell you for a fact they do. You know that once the babies start to hear, they tend to snuggle up to the heartbeat. So they will typically, the placenta is pulsating. They will typically push their face up to that pulse and snuggle up on it. Another cool thing is they can hear your breath. They can hear the inhalation and exhalation of the air going into your lungs. And I think this is a really nice way. They can't hear your voice just yet. That's coming later, about 25, 26 weeks. But they can hear that breath. And so one of the things we teach for our partners in our childbirth class is different forms of communication. Sometimes we can use sound for communication. Sometimes we can use touch. In this case, I say celebrate by doing some calming breath with your baby. This is for them to connect with you and feel your calm connectedness, and also for you to clear your mind and touch base with them and feel them without having all the chitter chatter and the to-do list and all of those things going on in your mind.
Yeah, and I think we forgot to mention, I mean, this goes back to the mindfulness piece and celebrating in that way during this trimester, and it's fun to track week by week of their development, but also how's your mind and how are your emotions. I really love another app called Expectful for this. They do small meditations anywhere from 5 to 15 minutes, your choice, that each week you connect to baby in that way, and there's different breath work exercises you can do as well.
I love that.
There's something for every single day of pregnancy if you'd like it, which is really neat. But week to week, it's a really nice connection that you can make.
I love that. And I think especially if you're feeling a lot of anxiety in your pregnancy, mindfulness practice can help. Breath practice can help. Also in second trimester, this is a great time to begin to investigate childbirth prep classes. And once you find something that you and your partner might like, get enrolled. Honestly, you should start your childbirth prep class somewhere between 26 and 29 weeks, giving you space to take, a good 6-week series and take in the information in bite-sized pieces and leave you space to process and prepare as you go through the class.
Especially if this is your first baby.
That's 100%.
Really important. I think that some people go in thinking they want to know less. I really don't recommend that in this setting.
Even if you do want to know less,
at least
there's a reason for that.
Yeah.
There's a fear
There's
component.
a fear that needs to be worked through.
That has to be addressed.
Yeah.
It has to be addressed either by learning about the process, or it has to be addressed by seeking some help. But the worst thing you really honestly could do is hide your head in the sand about it.
And give your body to someone else.
You can't do that. Yeah, it's not going to end well.
And that's where these childbirth classes also can prepare you for making decisions about where you want to give birth and where you feel safe. And we have an amazing episode on this that aired on November 30th, 2022, that you can go back, and it's called Where to Birth, Hospital Birth Center or Home Birth. And this episode goes through the various places and things to think about. But a good childbirth class is also going to share that with you.
They're going to kind of start to open your eyes to what might be a good fit. Once you start to understand the process and what you're going to be going through, then you start to understand, this location or that location is a better fit.
And they're going to be sharing all of them. They're not going to be given by, for example, a hospital, because a hospital is going to give you what to expect at a hospital.
Right. So when you're looking for childbirth prep class, I highly recommend an independent childbirth prep class, not necessarily one that is done through the hospital. They don't tend to give you all the various options that you might want. Another thing to think about is, since you are still early on, this is a great time to take a look at the birth facility and make sure that it feels good. We talked about this as well.
In that podcast.
Yeah, go in and feel it. Feel it, smell it, hear it.
And even if they don't have a tour, for example, a lot of hospitals post-COVID are no longer doing tours, or they're just doing virtual tours. Just walk in.
I would say walk into the location.
Smell, walk. It doesn't have to be necessarily labor and delivery if you're not able to get up there. But smell it, get the feel of the people walking around, what they're wearing. Just use all of your senses to understand and go back to, do I feel safe here, or is this not the place for me?
But do go to the location. We literally actually had this conversation in yoga last night, and they are in Colorado Springs. They are not offering tours.
Yeah, but we wanted to take one.
But here's what I know you can walk in, our local hospitals, you can walk into every single one, and you can go all the way up to the door of labor and delivery. The only thing that you cannot do do is actually go through the door in labor and delivery. But what I'll tell you is once you get in there, all you're going to see is a hallway full of rooms. And the only thing you would be missing is what that actual room
which
looks
they have
like.
virtual stuff to see that then.
They should have pictures online.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you still can basically get a feel for the space by just going up to that door and feeling it. But this gives you an opportunity, if you do it early enough and it doesn't feel right, to start to look into, investigate a change. Mm-hmm. Or if it does feel right, to put your mind at ease and soothe your soul to know that you are in the right place and you do have the right plan for you and your family.
And start visualizing it then.
And start visualizing what it's going to look like. I think
that's something we didn't mention in this trimester too, is not necessarily in the very beginning of second trimester, but as you deepen the spirituality aspect of this pregnancy and connection with your baby, you start feeling baby, start taking some of those mindful minutes of breathing and breath work to also think through, okay, I close my eyes and this is where I am. And this is what this birth looks like. And that doesn't mean that's what the birth is going to be. But by visualizing it and putting that picture to what it's going to be, like to what you want it to be, you can fully 110% commit to it. And like you've talked about this, and I don't even remember what episode it was in, but by committing to it, it makes it happen. Not
it's
in like every single thing, but
well, yes, because there's multiple variables, right? There's the baby and there's the mama and there's the people around. But it's like when an athlete trains. The athlete is training physically for the event, they're training mentally for the event, and then they walk through the event, like actually how they're going to do it in their mind over and over and over again. And I will say, if you have a hard time visualizing what that's going to be, it's because you don't know enough about birth yet. And so check out some of our beautiful birth stories in this podcast that might help. Those are women sharing beautiful birth stories for you. Also, you can check out Ina May's Guide to Childbirth. One half of that book is nothing but birth stories. So through reading those, through listening to birth stories, you should be able to begin to fill in the blanks. And through the childbirth prep class, you should be able to fill in enough blanks so that you should be able to get through a visualization for your baby and your birth.
Yeah. I would also say that, this is from my experience personally too, is if you are having trouble visualizing it, or your mind, you're putting your mind in one place, but it's going to another, maybe explore that a little bit.
There's something to be processed there.
Like, is there something, that you need to process through in order to release something that you're holding on to? Maybe it's a belief that we've been taught, or maybe it is like an external belief from someone else that you need to process through, or maybe it's something internal or something you've been hearing. I think it can just be very, very powerful to use that to say, okay, why am I moving from this space to this space every single time?
It goes back to the Zen Buddhist cup of tea, the teacher giving the student the cup of tea. So when you're trying to visualize, and instead of being able to get through this visualization, you're going somewhere else, it is because the cup is too full. There isn't any space there. So whatever is in the cup that you keep going to, we have to work process until we can empty the cup and make space for this new thing that we're trying to visualize and create.
Love that. Mm-hmm. Love that. Well, I think that that's a great way to wrap up this episode. If anyone, we're going to link a few things in the show notes. If there's anything that we mentioned that we didn't link or that you have questions about, please reach out to us. Our contact information will be there as well. We hope that you enjoyed the second trimester episode, and stay tuned for a third trimester coming up in
a few weeks,
maybe a couple months. Who knows at this point.
But thank you for listening, and thank you for joining us.